right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday night. It's 2100. That means it's time for the Brushfire Mind. This is Christopher Lowry. Tonight I've got Steve and Cody with me. And our main topic tonight is going to be about student loan debt crisis, debt in general to a lesser extent. And I'm going to lay out some case for why the whole plan from Bernie and Hillary about free college, where we pay for it, is just a bad idea. Even if we could afford to pay for it, it's just a bad plan. So, but before I get started on that, before we start digging into our topic tonight, I just want to say a little bit about the week that Donald Trump had. So, basically, here's how it went down. Last weekend, the president of Mexico, President Nieto, his grandson. But anyway, so President grandson sent an invite out to Hillary and to Trump. Invited them to come and meet with him in Mexico. And this is a move that's been played by other politicians in the past. It's not something that's surprising, and it's a formality. The expectation is not that anybody's actually taking you up on the invitation. Couple that with a trip like that for a statesman or politician, or in the case of Donald Trump, even just a political candidate. He's not even technically a politician yet. So usually for an invitation like that, for somebody to actually make one of those diplomatic trips, well, quite simply, it takes 2-3 weeks of planning to get all the logistics in place, Secret Service, line everything up. Hillary never even responded to the invitation because she's a politician, and she just understands, oh, this is a formality. He doesn't actually expect a response. He's making a statement to the world just to look like he's a nice guy, saying, hey, come visit me. Well, Donald jumps up immediately and he says, all right, boys, we're going Wednesday. And everybody starts losing their minds. Now, all this in the wake of the last 3 weeks or so, all the mainstream media has just been jumping up and down about Donald canceling a speech on immigration. And the refrain has been, oh, he's going to soften on immigration. He's softening on immigration. By the time it's all said, even Neil Bortz came and did his little speech that he does a couple times a day in Atlanta and on several syndicated stations, and said, there you go. Basically, all you idiots that voted for Trump in the primaries, you could have had Rubio, but no, gang of eight, rah! And now Trump's going to soften and get weak on immigration, and essentially you're going to have the exact same immigration policy you would have had with Marco Rubio, which is a bullshit immigration policy, which is amnesty. And so that was the refrain for 2.5, 3 weeks. And then the Donald goes down to Mexico, and he has himself a little blondo with El Presidente, and the conversation went across several different things, but essentially the president of Mexico agrees that the immigration problem is a problem. The illegal immigration from Mexico to America is a problem, even for them. For us, of course, we've got low-skilled workers coming in and either occupying jobs for which our most vulnerable job seekers would otherwise be competing, or going into the system and collecting benefits for which they're not paying, essentially just taking money straight out of our pockets. But what never gets discussed in America with regard to the immigration crisis is they're also sending cash back to Mexico, and it's not just the money that we're losing. It's not just about the $20 to $30 billion a year that is remitted by criminal aliens back to their countries of origin. I mean, that's a pile of money, and that's a problem. But a large part of that money is actually being funneled directly into the drug cartel, separate from their profit margins from the sale of drugs in the United States. And then, of course, there's all the guns that get back and forth. You know me, I'm a total pro gun guy. I love my little pistol that I wear around. You know, my little pistol, my little 357 Magnum, my little pea shooter. I'm a big pro gun guy. But when we've got criminals supplying weapons to criminals, you know, like, for example, when the drug cartels are receiving large weapon shipments from the Department of Justice, for example. Oh, yeah. Oh. Those are criminals. Funny how that works out. But anyway, so there's the conversation, and there's some agreement. Immigration's a problem. Money and guns going across the borders, problem. Drugs going across the borders, problem. They are all agreed. Donald comes back Wednesday night, gives a speech. After 3 weeks of all this mainstream media crying, he's going soft, he's flip-flopping. Oh, what a bum. Ha ha ha, you stupid Republicans that voted for Trump in the primary. He's not even the guy you thought you voted for. He walks out on the stage, he describes his conversations with President Nieto, and he says, now, you ready to hear my plan? The crowd goes wild. He says, all right, number one, we're going to build a wall. It's going to be a great wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. The crowd goes wild again. They start screaming and cheering and blah. And Now, some of the excuses that have been made by some of the guys, the talking heads on the right, I've heard it out of Rush, I've heard it out of Hannity, I've heard it out of a bunch of them, has been, well, it was really going to be a metaphorical wall. You know, what he meant was we were going to more aggressively enforce immigration controls on the border. So he clarified on the podium that night, we're going to build a wall. It'll be a great wall. Mexico's going to help pay for it. And then after the applause dies down, he says, now let me be clear. This will be a physical wall, a real physical barrier with radar on top of it and ground penetrating radar below it. So we'll catch their drones and we'll shut down their tunnels. And that is politician for, I'm not fucking around. He said, boys, I believe I got her. And I can handle it if she don't jump. So he came out hard on it. He doubled down. The wall is a thing. That's going to be fantastic. If nothing else, it will make for fantastic political theater once Hillary finally untucks her sack and starts doing some public appearances. So all that is just, those are my thoughts on that situation. And we just had one more viewer join us who's completely lost, missed everything I just said, and is just going to have to catch it later on YouTube. I'll post this as soon as we're done. Now let's move on to our actual topic. We're going to start talking about, and I hope Steve can pop back in. He's having some technical difficulties on his end. But right now it's just me and Cody. We're going to talk about student debt crisis, debt in general, and the notion of free college. It is the notion of free college that I want most aggressively to defeat. But let me start by pointing out a few things that happen in the world of student debt. A student gets loans, scholarships, grants. A student applies for money here and there. They get some of it. Some students are self-funded, but let's take Mr. Top of the class, comes out at the end of 4 years in college with a massive load of debt. Now, this is a generalization. I know I'm going to get comments. Oh, well, I spent every penny on my particular education. Okay, yeah, you went to whatever, you went to Princeton, and okay, sure, you racked up a pile. But little Jimmy John that went to Clayton State University and comes out the other end with $100,000 in debt after 4 years of college, he's done something very, very wrong. And what that wrongness is he's just been irresponsible. He's made poor choices, poor life decisions. So when you apply for student aid, however much you get and whatever the school costs, these numbers are not tied together. Okay? Cameron, who's often on our show, he and I were talking about it the other day. Cameron used to sell cars on a car lot. Now, when you're selling cars on a car lot, somebody wants to finance the car. Okay, great, you finance the car. And you cannot finance less than like 65% or something of the total value. But more importantly, you cannot finance more than 139% of the value of the car. So in theory, that extra 39% over the top of the value of the car, maybe I want to buy a nice car, and then I want to pay the dealership to put on some custom extras aftermarket. Oh, I buy myself a nice. Well, let's face it, I'm 6.5 feet tall. I buy myself a pickup truck, and I want them to put a dual exhaust on it and sound system. Blah blah blah. I want to spend another, because I'm out of my mind and apparently have more money than I know what to do with. I want them to go ahead and throw another $10,000 or $15,000 worth of goodies in my pickup truck. Just so we're clear, my pickup truck is 16 years old and does not have power windows. Just there you go. But if I want to take out that kind of a loan, I can. I can't take out much past that. Student loans work differently. I can get offered and accept any number of scholarships, Pell Grant. If I've got some kind of minority bonus going on, I don't. But if I did, I could accept one of those. I could accept American Negro College Fund on top of those. Take a Stafford loan, take a subsidized Stafford loan, a private loan. You can essentially borrow as much money as you want. And what happens is it all goes to the college. And the college takes out what it cost for what you owe them for the semester. And then they refund the rest of it to you. So you get a big lump sum. You get a big pile of money, goes into your checking account. Well, part of where they get you, for one, you're dumb enough to take out a whole lot more money. If you're borrowing an extra $30,000 over top of what you need for a semester, every semester, you're going to rack up some stupid debt. Now, I get it. If you're full-time in college, and you need a place to live, and you need to eat, you need a little money up over top. What you don't need is a new BMW. You don't need a new Xbox. You don't need a new big screen TV. You need to drive a hoopty, and you don't have time to watch television. You need a computer that's good enough to do your schoolwork on. Stop wasting your damn money. That said, it's not all on the student. Mommy and daddy should have taught them better. Never should have gotten rid of home economics. And once these youngins are at the college, they need to know, walking in as freshmen, that all the shiny, pretty people in suits that are offering them credit cards left and right, they know that you're a dummy. They know that you don't have your head screwed on right and you're not ready to deal with debt. They're counting on it. They're counting on you maxing out that credit card as fast as you can, and then paying the minimum so they can collect interest on you for the rest of your stupid life. That's part of the debt crisis. That's part of the problem. So if we can get the kids to get hold of themselves, a little bit of discipline, Could it be that the whole problem, that essentially every problem we have in America, actually goes back to the discipline crisis? I'm sorry, every now and then, a spanking is the right answer. My house, we do push ups. We get spankings when we refuse to do our push ups. Works out. Um, you got something to fall back on there. But you get into the college, you get in there as a freshman, you've got no discipline, you're totally ill prepared. Mommy and daddy, unless you're Jewish apparently, don't talk about it. And okay, I'm a racist, blah blah blah, there it is. But I want to bring up the Jews for a minute. Jews and money. We all know about greedy Jews and their grubby little hands and how good they are with money. It's funny. Well, here's the thing. This is something that you should take seriously, very very seriously. I've had a few friends, several very good friends that were Jewish, and we've you've got friends that are Jewish or black or gay or whatever, and they tell jokes and you tell jokes. You go back and forth, but if you're paying attention and if you're smart about stuff like that, it's worth asking the question. It's worth having the conversation. My buddy Morris explained to me, and it makes perfect sense, that it's in the Torah. You're supposed to discuss finances. You're supposed to discuss being a good steward of your money, which is part of being a man in the old traditional idea. We're talking about the whole misogynist, traditionalist, patriarchy world before the feminists fucked everything up. Women can vote. That's great. I'm on board. But sweetheart, one of us has got to be able to balance a checkbook. Okay, one of us has got to be home to cook. And if you don't want it to be you, then go get a job and I'll whatever. But at some point, somebody in the house has to have their shit together on the finances. Jews have a habit, traditionally, culturally, they discuss things at the dinner table. They talk to little Timmy about what it means to save money, about what it means to invest wisely and to work and earn and to have, and to be able to responsibly execute the duties of a man, which is to feed a family. The principal duty of a man is to raise a family. I would take that so far as to say your principal responsibility in any profession, the one responsibility that comes before all others, is to ensure that your subordinates, that your team is developing such that they can replace you, because you're not going to be the front man forever. And if you're not the front man yet, and your front man's not doing his best to make you be a good front man, you're getting cheated. See, whether you're talking about professionally or in the home, it is the business of a man to pass on what he is, and that means what he knows. Your children should learn from you. Your teammates should learn from you. The people around you should be learning so that they can move forward and take over. So, student debt crisis. Stop borrowing money you don't need. Yeah, you can borrow an extra $30,000 or $40,000 for a semester so that you can have extra nice clothes, a shiny new car, big TV, blah blah blah. But son, you're gonna pay for that shit. It's coming out of your pocket later. Now, before I start pulling on the boys to get some noise about the things that I've been saying already, I want to tag the idea of free college. Let us for a moment assume that there's no problem. No problem at all. We have plenty of money. It's nothing, no skin off our teeth to just stroke a check for every Jack and his cousin to go to college for 2 years right after he graduates high school. We can afford that. We can pay for everybody to get an associate's degree. Now, when I was first trying to get a job in the early to mid 90s as a kid, if you had a high school diploma, that was essentially all you needed to say, hey, I am qualified to take a position at the entry level in almost any industry. Yeah, you still weren't gonna take your high school diploma and start, go to work as a phlebotomist for the Red Cross or start interning with a brain surgeon. Okay, sure. But you could walk into a Mickey D's and start as not just a burger flipper, start on the assistant manager track. You could do that. That high school diploma would get you somewhere. Try it now. Walk out the door with just a high school diploma. Go to Mickey D's. See if you can get over minimum wage. Now, if you're a reasonable negotiator, sure. And that is the key to a good wage, is effective negotiation. But let's assume that everybody's got an associate's degree. If I've got somebody who walks in my door to flip my burgers with an associate's degree, but I know damn well that 9 out of 10 of everybody that comes in my door is going to have an associate's degree, all of a sudden yours doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's this simple. Free college is subsidized college. If you ever want to have more of something, subsidize it. For example, poverty. We've subsidized poverty, and now we have more poverty. Look at the housing bubble. Look at the debt crisis and the housing bubble that burst and put us into the recession that we're still in now. That was because under a Clinton program, we subsidized irresponsible home lending and created an exponentially inflated risk of default on home loans. That created the subprime mortgage crisis. That gave us the subprime lending and the bundled mortgage-backed securities, which is essentially fraud. And then Bush took office, and all that shit was already growing. And of course, a bunch of old Clinton Democrats were still in Senate seats and said, "Oh yeah, no, we're sorry, President Bush. We know you said you want to investigate this situation because you think something's going wrong, but no, we're not going to do that. You can't. No, we're stealing too much money here." So yeah, it was Bush's fault, by the way. So at the end of the day, if you want more of anything, you subsidize it. Well, the more of anything you have, the more of anything that exists, the less valuable it is. When the first artificial heart was created, they cost a fortune. Then a couple dozen rich guys bought one. All of a sudden, there was more money in the industry. They built more of them, and they got cheaper. And the more of them you build, the cheaper they get. And then you can buy in bulk, and so on and so forth. If we subsidize the generation of associate's degrees, the associate degree loses value. And if the associate's degree loses value, every other degree loses value as well. But guess what they don't lose? The price doesn't just magically go down. No, because the college experience, the entire educational experience, is inflated by artificial subsidization. And so the price of an education has been divorced from free market forces. There is no competitivity to cause a drop in the price of an education. The cost of an education has nothing to do with the price of an education. And we have not even begun to deal with the just utter scam, the highway robbery that is the multiple edition print running of college and collegiate academic textbooks. We'll get to that in a minute. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut on the other lines and get you boys to go ahead and talk about this a little bit. Come on in here, Cade.
Well, honestly, I don't know where to go with it. I'm just kind of taking in everything that you said, other than just say, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I honestly just don't have anything to add to it. I'll jump in later if you need me, but just taking it in right now.
Okay. Cody?
Doing a little bit of the same that Cade's doing. Just going back to looking through my experience with college, going through the military, had a high school degree, enlisted, did a couple of classes through tuition assistance programs while I was active duty, and looking at the subject matter of the courses that they're teaching that they require for 4-year degrees, and I understand the approach of making somebody well-rounded so that they are applicable to a lot of different environments, but at the same time I feel like a 4-year degree for the purposes of efficiency within a specific craft, trade, whatever you'd like to call it, it seems to be more about making profit off of the individual than it does about teaching them things that are relative to the environment they're going to subject themselves to. And I think that's due large in part to how colleges seem to be run more for profit than for education. I mean, you get a couple of colleges that are specialized in certain types of research, MITs, your Carnegie Mellons, your law schools that are prestigious and maintain their prestige by continuing to push the boundaries of their environments through scholastic experimentation and development of new processes or procedures. And yeah, that's awesome. But for a lot of the, I guess, general public that's not going in to pursue a doctorate level or a master's level understanding into their environment, I for the life of me can't figure out why college is as expensive as it is, and why the amount of content that has been decided upon across the board has been agreed upon as far as relevance to the environment that the individual is choosing to move into. So for instance case, I'm taking college classes right now, and I'm in a program for cybersecurity, and I'm taking arts and humanities classes because it's a core requirement.
Real quick, Cody, are you taking those classes using your GI Bill right now?
Yes, I am.
Did you get the Stafford, or I'm sorry, did you get the Pell Grant?
Nope, didn't apply for any grants or scholarships or anything like that. For the course load that I'm taking right now, every part of my benefits for the GI kick in, and it's more than what I need.
Okay, back up. Incorrect. While you're using the GI Bill, you can, in fact, apply. You can fill out a FAFSA. You can apply for all that money that I just said that a person shouldn't apply for. But here's the thing. Not all of that money is irresponsible loan money.
Mm-hmm.
You can qualify probably for a Pell Grant. And if you can, that's just free money.
Yeah.
Now, what I mean by free money is you've already paid taxes, and fuck them, you should take it back wherever you can. But the Pell Grant is just that. It's a grant. So the way that works, it's too late for you to do it now, I think. You can ask the financial aid office, but before you start the next semester, fill out a FAFSA, and then what will happen is a couple of weeks after the semester starts, they'll just drop $5,000 in your checking account.
Oh, I checked on the FAFSA stuff back when I transitioned out of active duty into reserves, and I had just signed on with my company. So they had, I think, a paycheck already to go off of, and according to FAFSA, I made too much money with my current job to qualify for student aid.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
So between working full-time, being in the reserves, and the pension, stipend, whatever you want to call it, that comes out of the GI Bill, dude, I'm coming off of active duty E4 pay. This is like 3 times the amount of money that I had before. So,
Anyway,
as far as yeah,
personal finances aside, I was just trying to throw you that little piece of advice. If you can qualify for the Pell Grant, take it.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Because that's one that you don't have to pay that back. So, okay, now we're properly off track.
All right, Chris, you could talk about just honestly how utterly useless college degrees are for the reason that you said, because they're handed out like Ritalin, and also
Yeah, they say if you drive through Athens, Georgia, UGA will throw a degree in your passenger side.
Yeah, you got to drive real slow though. But also, what are the points of majors anymore? I mean, people are not learning applicable skills. They're picking what they like, whatever will get them through 4 years, so that they can concentrate enough on partying and having fun and rebelling against the establishment while they actively partake in it. I mean, that's all that's all it is. It's like Cody was saying. It's a business. It's a business
I'm
now.
glad you mentioned that, Cade. One of the rebuttals, the libs like to throw it up that there's Slovakia and Sweden and a few other European socialist countries that have free college. Never mind the fact that their population is minuscule by comparison. People, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. And it is true that 1 can equal 1,000 in parts. That's important because the joke is about math. Being bad at math is a prerequisite to being modern liberal. It's just it is what it is.
Well, being ignorant, purposefully ignorant, is really the issue here, and it applies to everything else we talk about on this show on a weekly basis, of the level of blindness that you have to voluntarily have attained in order to walk into a polling place and actually vote for Hillary Clinton is astounding. And the same thing would have applied 4 years ago and 4 years before that. And it applies on both sides. It's not just specifically a liberal issue, but it's glaring on that side. So the mathematics that you're talking about, you could have calculus professors who fall into the category that you just mentioned, because it's voluntary. It is purposeful ignorance of parts of things. They do not see anything as a whole. They do not recognize certain parts, but they speak as if they know something as a whole, and that they're educated in something as a whole, when they've purposefully ignored the things that matter. I mean, that might as well be a diagnosable condition in the modern American liberal.
Yeah.
But God knows we don't need anything else to be prescribing at this point. So maybe we skip that one.
So I've got a commentary point on this. So I'm 26. I'm technically part of the millennial clusterfuck that is my peer group. But I was raised by 2 generations of outstanding individuals that spent time serving in the military, and due to the necessity of their environments, had logic shoved down their throat and were nice enough to regurgitate it to me. So when I look around and I see all these people that never got taught how to learn things, not, memorize facts and spit them back out for a test, but how to truly look at something as it sits within its environment and determine if it is authentic or if it has been falsified, and then to determine the schemes of control that are behind those. I can't really be mad at the kids for being susceptible to basically a psychological operation. Because if you look at the media and you look at the exposure that generations have around my age, they start when they're knee-high to a fence post, and they continue until they're grown-ass people. But nobody's spending enough time to teach them how to look outside of that scheme. My big wake-up was
essentially they're the victims of a constant psychological warfare campaign.
Yeah, it's like Mill Day, but it's large-scale public stupidity that's been projected onto a society, and it's become acceptable.
I agree with you 100%, Cody. However, I would add some caveats to it, and make it sound like I'm not agreeing with you, but I actually am. We always go back to the they weren't taught this or they weren't taught that. I'm not sure that it's a matter of that. Yes, they were not, but we're thinking about that in the simplistic terms that mommy and daddy didn't sit down and say, this is what responsibility is, this is what morals are, this is what ethics are. It's the empowerment of the generations that has gotten out of hand. You don't have to earn anything. This is a huge rabbit trail, Chris. So I'm just going to try not to.
Okay, let me just say this real quick, Cade, and then I'll let you continue. Not to belittle the point that you're making, but I want to catch you before you get too far down it, and I'd like you to go down it as far as you can, as if I didn't say anything. But the trail that you're going down right now, I think you are underestimating the extent of what Cody and I mean when we talk about these children being exposed to a long-term psychological warfare operation. That being said, please continue your thought, and then I want to revisit it.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this first. Are you talking about the just the general liberal empowerment equals votes kind of thing? Is that what you're like? They've been doing this for generations, and
I'll throw verbiage down to give you kind of a left and a right limit, Cade.
Okay.
What I'm looking at is basically late 60s forward, looking at the public distrust of government agenda that got pushed, which, hey, cool, conspiracy breeds research, typically, one would hope, but a majority of it just seemed to push people further away from finding stuff out. And today I see pretty much two groups of people solidly. I see the group of people that are sheep, that see what they're told and don't bother to look into it any further, because how does it benefit me if I look into this any further? Completely ignoring the advancement of your society with you as an important part to that society. And then I see the people that don't believe anything that they see with any modicum of truth, that go out and investigate it. And I've actually had more productive conversations with those individuals than I have with the people that are just, bump on a log living day to day.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point. Is the extremes. It's the taking sides that has been such a damaging and damning part of many, many generations now on end, and it gets worse with each one. And it's not just us getting older, looking like, oh, the kid's coming up, they're bad. You know, I always thought I would be like that, waving my fist at the kids walking down the street from the front porch.
Get off my
But
yard.
that happened a hell of a lot sooner than I thought it would. And and honestly, it's just from and I would think about it like, oh, I'm just getting cranky and whatever. But no, it's because I have eyes and ears and a brain to process what goes through them.
Now
you're right.
I actually think there's something to that. I think you're right. As far as we're getting into that crotchety old man, I just seen it. Get off my lawn. Turn that music down, you damn kids. I think there's something to the idea that we're hitting that stage younger than we expected to, in exactly the same way that we're developing technology faster and faster and faster. All the information is developing faster and faster and faster. So the music, for example, the evolutionary difference between the music that our parents said was of the devil. Well, okay, they went from bluegrass to rock and roll to rap with some R&B in there, right? And that was over the course of 40 years. But just since the 90s, we've been through death metal, heavy metal, slam metal, slash metal, hip hop, trip hop, acid pop, pop music in general. We've got the Skrillex guy with the dubstep, and now we've got mumble rap. And so the information moves, processes, develops, and evolves faster and faster and faster. And that's why I'm fucking gray already.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much I can get into that, because really the only music we are aware of the generations before us is that which has survived as classic. You know, I mean, the thing that lives on. There were definitely stages of different music throughout the time, but now it's everywhere. Information is everywhere, and everything revolves around entertainment. Everything revolves about needing to be entertained. The newer the generation, the more they need to be entertained all the time. And it's gone from the possibilities that these advancements were supposed to give us, were supposed to lead to further advancement and further advancement and further our civilization. But what's happened is somehow in the West, it's gone from be anything you want to be. You know, have whatever excuse you can have to be what you want to be. To now, it's do whatever you want to do, and it's all at your fingertips. And you don't have to answer to anyone anymore. And at the risk of sounding like one of those old men sitting on the front porch screaming, "Get off my lawn!" It sounded like lawn.
Earl.
That's the case. It's the case. The parents are no longer parenting their children. Somebody on television or somebody on an iPad is doing it. Mommy and daddy are both working from home. We can get into that whole feminist argument that would have all of us here being called chauvinists in about 4.5 seconds. But then you have apologists for parents, because innately we want to raise our children. We have been given that thing within us, that instinct to raise and rear our children. When we deny that, we have guilt that comes along with that, and mommy and daddy buy your affections, and you have no leadership. You have no one guiding you into adulthood, like we talked about a few weeks ago with rites of passage. Those are gone. Religions don't take any accountability anymore. The religions are all lazy in this country and in the West in general. And you have children with beards now. You know, you have adults, ostensibly, with the minds responsibility. And then in the educational system, getting back to that, No Child Left Behind, giving scholarships for any myriad of reasons, you don't have adults anymore. Where the hell are the adults? I feel like Chris on Family Guy, I need an adult, I need an adult. There are no adults anymore. We may be the last generation of frickin' adults. People are 34, 35 years old now, and where are the adults? It's a problem.
And we've talked about this before, doing a show entirely on the artificial extension of adolescence, which is a thing.
Encouraged artificial extension of adolescence.
Yes, and it's a very, very bad thing.
Nostalgia, good. Living in the nostalgia, bad.
The left understands that they are strong with children.
They are parents. They present themselves as parental.
Right. The left does very good with the very young voters. When they're before they've learned things, before they know. Milo Yiannopoulos looks at these kids and he says, "But you don't know anything." And he's so fucking right. Oh my God. But the left they love the little children because they've got their little heads full of mush. They don't know anything, and they'll vote for the left almost every time because they're dumb as a box of rocks.
And they'll take anyone's words for anything other than their parents.
Right, and that's
especially if it goes against what mommy and daddy are teaching them.
Right,
especially if it does that. College professors tell them what they need, what they want to hear, and what they deem that they need to hear, and then it takes them 20 years to figure it out because of their own observations. And then by that time, those kids, their kids, are ready to go into college, and well, it's too late now. And then it's just the cycle's going to continue.
Well, I think we've just about beat this horse to death, brother, and it's already almost 10 o'clock. We've run up against a couple of technical difficulties this evening as well, so and we've had more than one of our hosts is spending time in the hospital tonight instead of being on the show with us, and they were spun up for the topic. So Cody, let me get a little bit more out of you, and then we're going to close it out for the evening.
Okay. I got a couple
You looked like you wanted to say something else before you took off.
Yeah, I came in on the tail of children countering their parents, and I think that one of the things currently, societally, that we have to look at is the availability of information to kids these days. So, progressively, the goal of every generation prior to the current or next goal is to make that next generation smarter, better, faster, stronger. Pick your preferred adjective. But the sheer amount of information that is publicly available to individuals now is astounding.
Yes.
And going back to the earlier topic of the two groups of people, I think that people have gotten so wrapped up to try and figure out what group or what label they want to put on themselves, as opposed to just finding shit out separate from what that group or that label or that following tells you to do. Like, I don't affiliate to a political party because I see differences from multiple political party agendas or beliefs that I don't personally hold. So I go and I do the research that I see based off of my experiences and the morals that I've developed through those experiences. And realistically, I don't think it's as easy to raise smart kids as it is to raise stupid kids. And I don't mean to be mean to anybody when I say that, but to a certain extent, education itself was used as a weapon to keep generations of people subservient to those that were educated for a long period in history. And I think
And religion.
Yeah.
It's still the
religion.
case. Cade and I have talked about. I've referred to the mainstream media on multiple occasions as the New Vatican. Essentially, just like it was in the Dark Ages with the church before the Gutenberg press. You weren't allowed to read the Bible. That wasn't for you. That had to be read to you. And the media now is filling the same role. Essentially, you're not smart enough to examine facts and form opinions of them, to understand the data and process it and form an intelligent opinion.
You've been trained not to.
We will do it for you. You cannot be trusted to do it, so we will do it for you.
Yeah.
But there's no facts. There are no facts. Cody talks about information being available. You're absolutely right. But there's 3 to 1 more misinformation than there is information. And all you do is you cherry pick what sounds good to you to support you and make you feel good about yourself, because that's what we're all about now, is feeling good about yourself.
Well, there's so many. I don't mean to cut you off,
no,
but there's so many groups that create their own skew of an event. So you have an event, just take it to a local level. You have a police call. So an officer comes out, collects statements from different people. You're going to get a different answer from pretty much everybody that you talk to based off of their perspective.
Michael Brown.
Yeah.
And you had an entire movement start based on one person who was previously charged with perjury. And the collective opinion of, and I say opinion, and I mean that, of what other people saw, didn't matter a damn after that. Because they had chosen what to. It wouldn't have mattered if a video came out showing you exactly what happened. No, that's not real. Just completely ignore it.
Yeah,
it's what you choose to believe, and whatever you want to believe. Some asshat on the internet in Seattle has written up a paper telling you no matter how crazy you are, no matter how many lizard-like aliens you think have invaded your hometown. Oh yeah, they're there. Yeah, they're there. I saw them. Somebody's going to back up your opinion, what you want to believe, anywhere. And the older I've gotten, the more I have observed people only believe what they want to believe. It's very discouraging. It's scary. It's terrifying.
Well, you look at the hit that mainstream media took on a journalistic integrity standpoint. I can either choose to be accurate as a journalist, or I can choose to write things that's going to get me ratings. And since it's been run as a business, I'm going to go with what makes profits. But with that being one of the main sources of information that people tune into to get this information, it's corrupted to all hell. It's a misinformation campaign, plain and simple.
And especially when they
now don't let yourselves get confused about this issue of misinformation, the cherry picking thing. We are selectively biased. We have confirmation biases. We have retention biases. We have attention biases. We may not even notice something that we don't want to agree with, and if we're beat over the head with it until we just can't ignore it, then as soon as we can, we'll just forget it.
Oh, we're all guilty, sure.
But it's not just that we're all guilty. What I'm getting at, this is not a new phenomenon. What it is, however, is a much more aggressive phenomenon than it has been. The more rapidly information disseminates, the more rapidly that problem grows. So because there is so much, like Cade was saying, you can always find some idiot who's willing to corroborate whatever story you have. I saw 3 aliens in the street abducting the neighbor and giving him an anal probe last night. Well, it has always been that you could find somebody to corroborate that, to agree. Even if you had to search night and day until you found somebody who would accept whatever it was you could afford to pay them to lie to agree with you. The difference is, and it's more, we see it more today, and it's more relevant because of its prevalence, is that that information is so widely disseminated that it's not very difficult to find those cherries to pick.
Right. You
Well,
just Google it, search engine.
It's
your
got
time frame for a
much
situation.
to have your confirmation bias stroked.
Yeah, well, your time frame for a situation that's typically at a local level to go to a national level has there is no time frame. It happens and it goes pretty much national as quick as it can get disseminated out through the internet. And I think the dangerous thing is the speed of the information as it's moving, and people not understanding that misinformation travels just as fast as information does. And if you don't do the due diligence to circumvent rumor intelligence, then you're not doing your part as an individual.
Well, plus they report it with the obvious entertainment spin. I can't remember I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but sensationalism. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and they also know fun little tricks like that no one in this kind of society anymore, no one takes the time to actually read an article. So they put exactly what they want you to believe in the headline.
In a headline.
It happened with the speaking of Michael Brown, it happened with the churches after the guy in South Carolina went and killed those innocent people in that church. And then they were jumping on any reason that they could to keep throwing coals on the potential race war fire. So they started reporting. There was one article that I saw that said something like, I don't remember the number. Don't quote me. But it was like 18 black churches or 18 African American churches burned to the ground. Well, the trick was if you clicked on the article, and they knew they were using this current thing of people burning down. It was actual arson, But you click on the article, and turns out like 2 of those cases were actual arson. And the other vast majority of them were lightning strikes, electrical failures, things of that nature that were
stuff that's not related to the
right.
cause
But then
it
went
about.
All over Facebook. Oh, it's an attack. It's a full-on national attack. They're burning down black churches left and right. And I'm like, what? Well, I guess you can blame that one on God because there are only a couple of arsonists here and there, and the rest of it's just shit happens.
People just have no attention span to wait for
and they take advantage of that. They take full advantage of that
because it generates profit.
Yeah.
That's my biggest argument about having a media whose goal is to generate ratings. Now, I get it. It's a business, and at the end of the day, you got to put food on the table of the people that work for the company.
I'm pro-capitalism. Certainly Chris is.
Have the balls as an organization.
No, I am not pro-capitalism. I am a devout capitalist. Welcome to the united theocracy of capitalism, where the dollar is almighty God, and possessions are 9/10 of your commandments.
But if you, one of the biggest things for me at the media angle, and I've got a lot of shit to say about this, but I'll try and wrap it up quick. In the 80s, you had 50-something broadcast corporations that ranged every level from local all the way up to your national level. And they were controlled by multiple different entities, which allowed them to provide information specific to the cases that they were talking about. Now you have 6. So the option of, okay, well, I don't really like how they do news, I'll just switch over. You can only do that 5 more times, which means you're only going to get a left and a right limit that's been tightened down to push specific things by the people that are in control of the media. It sounds like a gigantic conspiracy, but you kind of got to give them a little bit of credit there in the sense that there is something that is being controlled at a higher level to disseminate information to the public. And I haven't seen a political candidate that cares to address this specifically.
Well, no, because they're being sponsored by that. I mean,
exactly.
But I had my wife said the other day we were watching something on Fox News and I'm not a fan of Fox News. I actually can't abide Fox News, but it's the best way to escape the liberal mainstream media. And of course, every time they go to a commercial break, they advertise themselves as being the #1 news network in all of the United States. And my wife said, well, how can that possibly be? I mean, clearly, there's, Barack Obama's won the last 2 elections, and if the conservatives are as large a group as we're being told, which Fox being the #1 news network would indicate, then how could that possibly be true? And I said, well, you got to realize that the reason Fox News is the #1 is because all conservatives watch Fox News. Liberals have the other 5.
Yep.
That they can divide amongst who their particular favorites are. All the conservatives have is Fox News. And the liberals will constantly say, "Oh, Fox News. Well, that's not real if they said it on Fox News." But yours is perfectly acceptable. I mean, yours is the truth. You've chosen this truth, and you're accusing everyone else of doing the exact same thing.
To take that concept of delegitimization and apply it to political candidates, I hate when political candidates talk about one another. Obviously, you guys don't agree on issues because you're running against it. Got it. Understand the construct. Talk about what you're going to do, what your plan is. I could give a shit less about you taking apart your enemy. Great for the delegitimization of them, and that, yeah, I got it. You don't like them. Duh. But spend more time talking about what you are going to do and identifying your agenda, information, proposed policies, stuff like that. Stuff that actually tells people what your intentions are.
Well, this time around, it's a little different.
Let me throw this in there too, real quick, Chris.
Okay.
Smear campaigns have been around since like Jefferson and Adams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were attacking each other personally, but yeah, it's never has gotten anywhere. No one actually likes it. It's just the drama, the Jerry Springer aspect, if you will. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, almost everybody universally will say that they don't like a smear campaign. They don't like to see a political campaign go negative. But at the end of the day, they work. We may not like it, or it may even just be that we say we don't like it. Whatever the case is, the numbers show that it works. It's effective, and that's why it keeps happening. Just like what you were talking about with the 5-6 networks, Cody, it's not that way because we do or don't want it to be. It's that way because it works.
Who does it work for?
It works, period. That's I see what you're going for there. I see what you're going for. Those big evil rich men. But no. You're missing something there, and we're not going to dig into that on this show because
it's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, it's a whole nother conversation. Damn, you broke my train of thought. Where was I? Oh, so this election cycle, we all like to say that we hate it when they go negative, and that may even be true. We may believe that, but there's a lot of things we hate. We hate a big messy car accident that kills a bunch of people, but we're gonna look at it. We're gonna keep staring at it. Tragedy gets our attention. Malice, rage, hate, violence. Like it or not, these things get our attention. Now, as to discussing specifics in a campaign, this campaign is wildly different than many have been before. Well, on the left, it's not. Hillary cannot talk about specifics. She cannot talk about what she actually wants to do. She's got it published on her website. You can go read it. It's Commie Takeover, new fucking Red Soviet USA will be the USSA. But she cannot say what she intends to do, where the people who will vote for her, who, I might add, are the people who will not examine her, they will not study her, they will not critique her. They will run only on this emotional blatherskite that Trump's a racist and it's important that we get a woman in the White House. Two untrue, utterly false, ridiculous, and provably false statements. Trump's a racist, and we need a woman in the White House. Utterly false.
Well, the second one can't even qualify as truth. That's dangerous opinion.
Yeah.
Because in sure, I mean, that's great. I'm not a woman. I can't tell you how much I want to see a woman in the White House. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. I would vote for a woman if I thought she were the most qualified. But that should never, ever, ever be the reason that you vote for anyone.
To say that Hillary deserves to be elected because we need to have a woman in the White House is exactly the same as to say you shouldn't have voted for Barack Obama because he's black.
Mm-hmm.
It is exactly the same degree of bigotry.
But they said the same thing about us. You didn't vote for him because he's black. I didn't vote for him because I've never voted Democrat in my life, and I don't plan to start now.
Right. Well, in fairness, I have refused to vote for the Republican because I didn't like I've refused to vote when I didn't like my options. With Obama, both his terms, I did not like the Republican, but I voted against the communist. And this time around with Trump, it is my great pleasure that I actually really like my candidate. I'm very, very happy with Trump, especially after his speech on immigration Wednesday night. That was solid. I mean, just hard nuts solid. But we're straying off the topic again. So let's go ahead and rein it in before I get too far off on a rabbit trail and we find ourselves here till midnight again. Boys, it's been a pleasure. I love you. Thanks for joining me tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching the show. There are actually 0 viewers at the moment. That's okay. I saw you pop up. We had about a dozen people pop in and out of watching the show tonight. That's pretty good. For a tiny little live stream. Thanks for being here. This is the Brushfire Mind every Friday night at 2100. Look us up on Facebook. Like us, follow us on Twitter. Donate to the Patreon account. We need the money to improve the show, to buy a not wrinkled backdrop, for example. We appreciate your patronage. And remember, until next week, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, you'll keep him warm for the rest of his life. Good night.